when you log into the system, you're essentially going to a SharePoint site, and this SharePoint site is being configured as a dashboard. So we will provide you with these dashboards so that you can use these dashboards in your own environment. And this particular dashboard is specifically for Building Safety Act and contains some processes that relate to that act. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate one of these processes, show you what a digital process actually looks like, to give you some sense of how digital processes can be used to manage your Building Safety Act compliance. So we're going to kick off with a fire safety checklist. And to launch the fire safety checklist, I just click on an icon. It then opens up in my browser. And this is what all of our processes look like. It's basically a combination of a process, which you see at the very top of the screen, with some data. And that data is associated with a process step. So the very first step in this process is a weekly fire safety checklist, which is typically executed in the field by a resource. And what they're doing is they're looking at a building location, and they're identifying whether a set of questions are correct or not. So, for example, the very first question here are all corridors, passages, exits, routes free of rubbish and obstructions? And I'm saying no, they're not, because I've noticed an obstruction, bag in corridor. And I'm going to select from my device, I have a picture of the bag, and then I'm going to upload it and highlight the bag. And that's my initial record there of a non-conformant item on the fire safety checklist. Now, typically this is done on a mobile device, and on that mobile device, when you upload that picture, you can actually take a picture with the camera on the mobile device. It's then automatically uploaded. You can also upload an image file that you might have, let's say a drawing. In fact, I'll show you an example of another form shortly that actually would show you that working on a mobile. Okay, so I've recorded this non-conformity. I'm going to go down to the second question. Are all fire doors blah, blah, blah? And I'm going to say no, they're not. There's a door obstructed. There's actually a wedge in a door. And I can upload my photographic evidence that shows that that's actually occurring. And I can highlight the offending wedge. So basically, this is what you're doing with FlowForma. You're filling in forms. The forms can be pre-populated. The forms, the data that you see, you can interact with other backend systems, for example, your project management system, to pull in project details into the form, to minimize the amount of work that the form filler needs to do. So all the form filler needs to do is fill in minimal detail just to record that they have carried out their task, which is to conduct a weekly fire safety checklist, and that they've uploaded evidence that this task has been done. And at the end of it all, they press the submit button down here. And what that does is it submits that work and moves on to the next process step. Now, in this case, the next process step is going to be a process that involves assigning actions. So first of all, this step in the process would normally be carried out by the fire safety officer, who would be a different person. Now, each person in your organization is going to have a dashboard that shows them what tasks are currently assigned to them. So as we move the workflow on from fire safety to assign actions, the fire safety officer will actually see assign actions, that job appear on their dashboard. They can click on that and it will automatically jump into the assign action step. That then shows only the non-conformities. So all the other questions have disappeared. It's only showing you the things that you need to deal with, right? So it's all personalized to you and the job that you're doing right now. So I'm just seeing that I've got a bag in the corridor, and I've got the wedge in the door, and now I have to decide what I'm going to do about that. Now I'm going to pass these on to somebody else to action. So somebody has to go and deal with the bag and deal with the wedge. And I can specify who that is in this form. So if I scroll along to the right here, I'll see that I can enter in the name of the person that's going to deal with this. And I can also assign this maybe to somebody else. So I'll assign that to Dara here. So once I've entered in the person's name, the system will then create two new tasks. As we see here, these two tasks for action owner 1 and 2. and assign one to David and one to Dara. And so the system is basically allowing you to execute a series of process steps. And on each process step, it's gathering evidence. The evidence is in many formats. There's lots of different types of data that can be captured. And so you can capture images, you can capture locations, capture lots of detail. And all that evidence is being saved in an audit trail. And as the system moves through the different steps, it could also carry out communications. So it can automatically send emails, it can automatically generate documents. In many environments, you actually need let's say a PDF document as an output that you then forward on to your client. The system will automatically generate this documentation for you. And all the information that's being captured here is being stored back in SharePoint in a structured folder structure. So it's all stored in a structured manner. You can actually name files that are being generated and stored in use specific file naming conventions and so on. So all that data is stored in that central database in the background. So if we have a quick look at the data store, so in this area here, we're seeing those fire safety checklists gradually being built up. And for each of these fire safety checklists, I can actually check to see what the audit trail is. So if I click on the audit button here, it shows me that detailed audit trail that is basically the evidence that you can then analyze to see what work was done and who did the work on it. So this audit trail is filterable, so you can find specific points in the audit trail if you want. You can find specific dates or specific resources who worked on it. And in this case, it's running in my demo environment, so it tends to be the same person who carries out all the tasks. But in reality, different people carry out different tasks, and you can actually identify who did what and exactly when they did it, etc. So you have a full detailed audit trail that's captured in the background. Now that audit trail is available for reporting. And also one of the things the audit trail does, it's not specifically related to BSA, but it does record performance metrics as well. So you can see who's done what, but also how long it took. So we have full tracking on process performance. It's very useful for if you want to see things that are running late. This works in real time. So you're able to see that, well, for my fire safety checklist, I've actually got 12 of them running late. And I can click on that icon and dig into the 12 processes that are running late and find out why. So it provides you with that real-time performance on your operations, so you can see things that are being delayed. You can go in and address those either directly, because you can see which resources are working on the relevant processes. So I can see straight away, oh, Paul Stone is doing this particular job, and then David is doing this one. But also, over time, I can look at the detail within the steps in each process and identify process bottlenecks and improve my operations to make my company more productive. So one thing I'd like to show you very briefly is how quick and easy it is to create these processes. And maybe just before that, actually, I'll just show you briefly the mobile interface. It's a little bit difficult to do on a desktop screen. Obviously, you have to look at a mobile device. But what this does is allows you to get some feel of what the mobile interface looks like on a tablet, for example. And I'm going to just click on an example here, safety observation report, that shows you a typical mobile form. The system is designed so that when you create a solution for a desktop, it's automatically available on the mobile. And this is one of the reasons it's so fast. You don't have to build separate applications or separate digital processes for desktop or mobile. They automatically will work with each other. Okay, well, sorry, regardless of the device that you're using. Now, I mentioned earlier on that we capture a large amount of different types of data. And this form gives you an example of that. It's showing you that it captures a location. I'm currently located in Dublin, in Ireland. It's capturing my GPS location. Also, when you upload a picture, you can take a picture with the mobile device if you want to. You don't have to upload it from your file area. The forms are also very user-friendly. So all the forms, regardless of the type of digital process that you have, they all work in the same way. And we find this is really useful for adoption, because one of the key things that we hear again and again from the construction industry is, oh, I bought this new system, but I can't get it adopted by the workforce. Our system is designed to be easy to adopt. You can actually include your own descriptions of helpful information inside the form so that basically you're guiding the person in the field as to what to do next. And as you enter information, the system is responsive. So if I were to put in, I want to put in a corrective observation to this particular safety observation I'm making, it then provides me with a whole set of additional data that I can fill in to deal with that corrective observation. So I might want a follow-up action, for example, and give it a signature here. And then ultimately, I want that follow-up action to be carried out. So now when I press the submit button, it will move on to the next step in the process, which would be to carry out the follow-up action that I've prescribed. So the forms are very, very responsive. The whole idea is that end user in the field will find them very easy to use. And then as they're being filled in and executed, they're automatically communicating between the different resources involved in all the different steps of the process. The system also has the ability to generate documentation, like I mentioned earlier on. So it can generate PDFs that contain the data from within the form itself. Just to have a quick look at how those PDFs are created, they're actually created using Microsoft Word. And what we've done is we've built in a plugin for Microsoft Word that allows you to merge the information from the form onto a PDF or Word template that you create yourself. So the whole idea is, if you're using Word forms at the moment, it's really easy. You can take those Word forms and then merge in the data from your digital process into the form, so that when you generate a PDF, it contains all that data from the form. We find this is really useful in the construction industry. Lots of people, even though they're getting rid of paper, putting in a digital system, they still require the PDF output as a piece of evidence that they can then send back to the client. This quick and easy way of creating that PDF output, people find very useful in construction. Okay, what we'll do now is maybe look at a little bit at how you build out these digital processes. So first of all, to say that we provide you with templates. The fire safety checklist that we looked at is one of our templates that we can provide to you, and we can provide you with other templates as well. In fact, not only just for BSA, we actually have a series of construction accelerators that include a wide variety of construction processes. We can provide those to you. But the thing about it is, once you start using the system, you'll realize very quickly that you can just simply create your own processes from scratch. It's really quick and easy. You talked about a 1 week, 2 week time frame earlier on, and it really is that fast. It's that fast because we have this no-code configuration tool. We call it the Flow Designer, and in the Flow Designer, you can create a series of process steps, and on those process steps, you can create the data items that you want to capture. We call them questions. So you can create as many questions as you like to capture all that information, and you can do that really easily. I'm going to show you how easy it is. In the fire safety checklist here, I'm going to add in a new process step. I'm going to say manager approval. And what we're going to do is add this in as a step in the process. As you can see, it appears here as the last step in the process, but I want it to be the second step. So I want there to be a manager approval of the fire safety checklist before it goes on to assign actions. So I'm altering the workflow here. I'm adding in a new task. And on that task, I want to add in a question. So I want somebody to say, do you approve? Yes, no. And the type of answer I want is a yes or a no. So let me just go down here. There's lots of different types of data that you can capture, like I mentioned earlier. You can upload files as an answer to a question. You can record a date and time. You can default that to today, for example. And you can make it read-only, so it's a useful timestamp that shows people, for example, when they uploaded the document. You can also handle digital signatures within this system. But what we're going to do is I'm going to scroll all the way down here and pick yes, no, and press save. And that adds the question into the form straight away. So now what we have is the first step is capturing all the answers to the fire safety questions. The second step, manager approval, asks the person for the approval, yes or no. And then the third step is assign actions. So it's really easy to add in steps and questions and build out a process that works for your environment. It works the way you want to work. At the end of the day, the BSA doesn't tell you that you have to work this way or that way. What it's trying to do is to make sure that you're gathering evidence, gathering that golden thread that's saying, this is what we did, right? And then it's up to you as responsible people to do it right. But the key thing is that you need that system of a record that gathers the evidence that shows you're a BSA compliant. And that's what FlowForma does. And it does it in a way that's flexible. So that gathers evidence to accommodate the way that you work, the way your resources work. And it gathers that information in one big central database that you can then use for reporting, like I said earlier on. Okay, this gives you some idea of how those processes are constructed. What I'm just going to very briefly mention is that you also have this concept of rules. Now, what rules are automated actions that happen in the background. I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail. You can contact us and get a full-blown demonstration that covers off all this detail. But the key thing I wanted to say is that those rules are the automated actions that happen in the background. So if you imagine that your steps in a process, they're the tasks that people, human beings in your company carry out every day. And the data is the evidence that those tasks were being done. The business rules are automated actions that the system does in the background that help you get your job done. So for example, you might have some data integrations. We have lots of different integrations. You'd be pleased to know I'm not going to go through them all, but we can basically integrate with lots of backend systems. So as a person is filling in a form, it can automatically reach out to a backend system and pull in, let's say, the project details, or pull in the current timesheet details or whatever, so that you can quickly push and pull information out of FlowForma. The other thing we do is, I'll just briefly mention communications. So we carry out lots of automated actions that do communications. What does that mean? Well, it might be, for example, to send an email. Send an email out to a client or a supplier or a contractor, or maybe send an email to one of your colleagues telling them that they should check the dashboard, that they've got some work to do. Click on this link to carry out your task, that kind of thing. So emails are still very important, but these are automated emails that the system automatically sends. And the whole idea with that is that you can send targeted emails to targeted people, so they're not irrelevant. They're emails that require action, call to action, and that the system can do that for you automatically. You can also generate documents. We talked about this a little bit earlier on. It's so important to be able to generate documents as you're executing the process to help with that system of record in the background. Now, there's lots of little features in FlowForma, for example, generating barcodes and recognizing barcodes, but I better not start talking about it because it will take far too long to go through each little detail. But sufficient to say that FlowForma is a very versatile system. It really can tackle a lot of different scenarios. It's more than capable of doing the work on BSA, and many people will use it for other processes as well. So not just BSA related. So you can do that if you want to. Also, the system allows you to work with lots of different types of files. So one key thing with BSA is having that ability to manage all that building information. And the building information may be in lots of different types of files. So FlowForma is designed to work with every type of file that you have. So it's not just simple image files that we have here, for example. It's working with documents, obviously, with whether they're editable kind of Word documents or whether they're PDFs. It's also working with images that you would have taken from drawings, for example, in your backend system. So you could upload a image of a drawing. In fact, maybe we can quickly show you that. So you could, for example, upload an image here of a drawing file and highlight that particular area where this file safety issue is occurring. Okay, so the system will work with your backend system as well and pull the drawings into FlowForma so that you can highlight them and address issues in particular places and particular locations.